safety and training, and then state vehicle use. You'll get a lot more state vehicle training and use in your I-Learns a little bit later, but I'll just touch on some of it today. So in your state vehicles and also as part of stuff that you'll gather when you come do field training in person with us, you'll have some of the safety equipment that you'll be issued. We already talked a little bit about safety vests and how important those are, especially on busy roads, but we wear them all the time pretty much unless you're at a park taking your break or lunch. But every other time we're pretty much in those. And then you have some road triangle kits in case you're in some kind of fender bender. There's a flashlight in case you need to look at something more closely in your engine, jumper cables. We have magnets, which are kind of in the process of being switched into decals. But anyone who's been a returning tech with us knows we have these magnets we stick on the side of our car that say Oregon Department of Agriculture. Sometimes they fall off, but we're always, we have plenty to issue, and hopefully through the season we'll be transitioning those into decals. Some of you may have tire chains in your cars. As you would imagine, during the summer, you'll probably never use those. If you don't have tire chains, it's not a problem. It's kind of a residual thing that fleet used to issue, but they're no longer issuing them anymore. But the important things in terms of driving on like forest lands, especially during fire season and red flag warnings, which I just saw we have one on the west side this week. So if you plan any outdoor adventures, make sure you're not parking on any grass or anything like that. But we issue a shovel, a fire extinguisher, and as Holly mentioned, a jug of water that's non-potable. So we're going to start with fire extinguisher training. I wish it was as easy as Ron Swanson has it here, my friend from Parks and Rec Department. Fire is not safe. Training is over. It's not that easy, unfortunately. So we're going to have you watch this fire extinguisher training video on YouTube. I'll post a link in the chat box as well. It's about 15 minutes, so feel free to watch that and meet me back here in about 15 minutes.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so the video is a little bit dry, but in order to use your fire extinguisher, you have to have that training video. Even though you have that, though, you're under no obligation to actually use your fire extinguisher if you don't feel confident and comfortable doing so. So I just want to make that really clear. We have to carry it as part of our fire safety protocols. But if you don't feel comfortable using it, don't feel like you have to do that. So you have a little pop quiz. Does anyone want to tell me what PAST stands for?
Pull, aim, squeeze, sweep.
Yeah, pull the pin, squeeze, and sweep. What's the A? Does anyone
Aim.
remember?
Aim. Sorry, I forgot
Yeah,
the aim.
that's okay. Yeah, so we're going to pull the pin, aim the nozzle at the top or the base of the fire.
Base of the fire.
Fantastic. Yes, the base of the fire, where all the hot stuff really is. Squeeze the handle and sweep from side to side. So in normal setting, I would have a fire extinguisher to show you guys so that I would pass it around early on so you would kind of have an idea of what kind of fire extinguisher you have. But does anyone want to take any guesses at what kind of fire extinguisher you might be issued?
ABC.
It is an ABC. Yeah, you'll be issued an ABC fire extinguisher. This is for use with any fires involving ordinary combustibles, flammable liquids, and energized electrical equipment. We have fairly small 5 and 10-pound fire extinguishers. Anyone want to take a stab at how long that might last you?
Like
About
6
5
to
or 10
10
seconds.
Yeah.
Yes, they're not very long, 5 to 15 seconds. So this is not for fighting, let's say, the fire that you see in the picture right here, right? That's way too large. This is for someone throws a cigarette butt out their window, maybe, and it's very small and just starting. If you were to use your fire extinguisher, or if you see a small roadside fire, what might your first step be? This is kind of a trick question. There's a lot of right answers.
Call 911.
Yeah, that's
For the fire
definitely
department.
that. Yeah, that definitely could be your very first step. So really, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on how large is it. Are you comfortable? If someone like I've a lot of times driving around doing field work, you might see someone burning slash. I had someone a couple seasons ago burning slash in a gutter, and I thought that like on their property, and I at first thought it was a roadside fire, but it was actually them burning slash on their private property. This particular fire is actually a prescribed field burn. If you're not our friend on Facebook, ODA, if you're not ODA's friend on Facebook, we don't have many friends, so I'd be surprised if you are. We send out burn notices via Facebook notifications. There's a lot of people who are grandfathered in the valley, all the way up from Portland field office, all the way down, that do all kinds of field burning. And so, from a really far distance away, you might see something like this. And when you get up closer, you see people actually doing, I don't want to say managed burns because managed burns can easily get out of hand and turn into unmanaged burns, but prescribed burning of fields and stuff. There's a couple of national wildlife refuges that also do this. So if you see something like this, if you do report it, it's not, I mean, better report it than not report it. But I do want you to be aware that you might see these kinds of things doing your field work, and sometimes they're going to be prescribed burns. All right, so we're going to move on now to state vehicles, operation care, and some technician responsibilities. So this comes directly out of an iLearn that you guys will see later, but there are 3 types of state vehicle use. You have day use, full-time use, and overnight use. Does anyone want to take a guess at what type of vehicle use most state employees have?
Day use.
Yes, day use. Even though most of you will be taking your state vehicle home overnight, you're only really doing work activities with that vehicle. So your field office is your home in a way, and that's why you're allowed to park your vehicle at your house. But you won't be doing like runs to the doctor on a Saturday or grocery shopping at Wilco or whatever you do on your weekend time with your state vehicle, unless you're doing maybe some overnight traveling. Then there's some special allowances in the overnight use category, but that's only if you're doing some kind of traveling thing for us and away from your home. Any questions about these 3 use types just before I move on? Okay. So some parking in a state vehicle when you're doing field work, totally okay to use turnouts and even driveway entrances, especially if you're in a lot of rural ag land areas. When you do park there, though, I highly recommend not blocking the whole driveway. So try to be, conscientious of people. Well, one, people can get really upset if you're blocking their driveway. But 2, they usually don't mind as long as they can get in and out as well. So just make sure you don't do that. Use your strobe light and your flashers and make sure your vehicle magnets are visible. Even with all of that, sometimes people do still, I think a couple years ago, someone from Benton called me and they were like, someone's parking in my driveway. I don't know who it is. It says a state vehicle and they're wearing a vest, but I think they're trying to steal my Amazon packages. And I'm like, she gave me the e-plate. I'm like, nope, that's definitely our employee. Don't worry about it. If you want them to move, please feel free to ask them to move, but she's not stealing your Amazon packages. So even with all of that, people still sometimes think that we are not who we are, as Jake probably mentioned a little bit yesterday. We are allowed to approach private property, especially down like long driveways in ag land and rural areas. If you do that, make sure that you're driving on designated driving areas and always park with the intention to leave. Anyone want to take a guess at why we do that? Silence, dead silence. Crickets could be chirping. We do that because in case the person does not want you on their property, we don't want to make a 8-point turn trying to get out of their yard area or property. So we try to park with the intention to leave. I also do this when I'm parking in driveway entrances. I don't pull in. There's a couple reasons why. I actually fell into the ditch my first year trapping because I tried to back out of someone's driveway and dropped a wheel into the ditch because I was trying to avoid just pulling out onto the road, the very busy road. So I actually pull a little bit further than the driveway and back into the driveway is kind of what I tend to do if I have to do that, if visibility isn't great, or just don't park there if you don't feel safe doing so. But I do that even in driveway parking. So when you take your state vehicle to your house at night, your first choice will be to park in your driveway, garage, or carport designated apartment space if you can. And your second choice is to park on a safe street or space in front of your residence. I know not everyone has a carport driveway, access area, but we do sometimes our cars sometimes get sideswiped on roads, so that's why we try to mostly park in driveways and garages and stuff.
What if all of the parking around your residence is paid parking?
Yeah, so in most cases, state vehicles can't avoid paid parking. There's a couple of exceptions. We have like an agreement with Portland Metro that during work time and doing work duties, we can park like downtown Portland without paying a meter, without getting a ticket. But overnight parking, yeah, that would be something that you have a couple options. You can leave the vehicle at the office and then pick that up and start your day at the field office and leave your personal vehicle there while you're working. I had a couple of technicians do that last season. There could be another alternative. We might be able to find like an ODOT lot or something a little bit closer to you that we can park the vehicle at, but most of the time it's just usually left at the field office, especially depending on where your territory is. Otherwise, it would be paid parking, and if you did get a parking violation, then that would be your responsibility. So that's, I mean, every time I go to Salem in my state vehicle, I have to have a thing of quarters, because in Salem there is no state vehicle free parking except for a small portion of a parking lot that we have paid spaces at. So I always have to be conscientious of that, at least when I'm in Salem area. But we can chat a little bit about that later, Marissa, and we can see what we can figure out. So on your lunch, we try to park courteously. We've all seen those people who park in Fred Meyer parking lot and take up 4 spaces. We try not to do stuff like that. And we, even though Portland Field Office, if you try to Google us, you'll see that we're next to like an adult video store and a Dolphin Gentlemen's Club. We try to avoid parking near adult establishments on our lunch. A story that I thought I was going to get someone calling the governor's office about is we all have these like office chairs, and the place in Salem where we go to pick them up is right next to a dispensary, and there's barely any parking in front of the office chair store. And I had to park in front of the dispensary for about an hour, and I thought someone was going to report the state vehicle hanging out at the dispensary. They didn't, but we try to avoid situations like that if we can. And then at the Salem main office, I kind of already mentioned this. If you ever have to go to the main office and you're taking your state vehicle, there's a couple in your binder, actually. There should be a reference to the red lot and the spaces we can park in for free. Anywhere else you park in Salem is paid, and you have to pay the meter to park in any of those spaces. I guess not all are paid. Some are residential. You also can't park in residential permit areas either in Salem without getting a ticket in a state vehicle. So just some road sign review. I think most of us know most of these things, but even if there's no signs posted, most of these guidelines, or in most places these guidelines would apply, but mostly I wanted to bring your attention to school zones. Last year we got a little bit of a break. This season they are back. They're totally back in full force, so please be mindful of school zones. I've seen a lot of cops in school zones this year just because people got used to not really paying attention much to those last year. So just a couple of things on state vehicle etiquette. I've become a much more friendly driver since working for the state and having to just drive very courteously. Not that I wasn't before, but pretty much the only things that really bother me now is when I see people following too closely or something like that. I'm always one of those people. Oregon's pretty well known for letting people in and, you know, sitting at a stop sign for 15 minutes trying to figure out who's going to go first. But we always follow the road laws and we try to be as courteous as possible. Headlights on at all times. This is mandatory in state vehicles. Please be aware that running lights and headlights are not necessarily the same thing. If you're driving at night, some vehicles, the running lights turn on the headlights not as brightly as actual headlights. It's like a different bulb, but then they don't illuminate the tail lights. I don't know if any of you have been driving on the freeway at night and actually seen things like this, but some vehicles do not illuminate taillights. So we drive with our headlights on at all times. We try to maintain a safe traveling distance. You'll learn a little bit more about this in iLearns, but it follows a second rule, which means if you find something stationary on the road and you count, anyone want to take a guess at how many seconds?
3?
I mean, it's actually three is what I think maybe it says in some DMV manuals, but we actually follow 4 seconds, which seems like forever going 65 miles an hour. And everyone is going to want to steal your 4 seconds because it's a big gap. So you just adjust for that. But yeah, so 4 second following distance that we try to maintain. and then utilize all your state issued equipment and safety equipment. We try to maintain our vehicles so that they look nice. We do this for more than one reason, especially if you're driving onto like private ag land or like blueberry fields or things like that. We don't want to be the people who bring invasive weeds to someone's property or bring Japanese beetle, heaven forbid, to someone's property. So please check your cars regularly for, we try to take it to the car wash to clean off all the wheels and all the mud and dirt and stuff that gets collected on it. And some places you may go may require you to wash your car before you go. So just be mindful of that. And then you're going to want to report any vehicle accidents or damages of any kind. This is not to get you in trouble, but essentially we want to make sure that you're as safe as possible in the field. So we want to make sure that if you back into something and you break a taillight, that we get that fixed. Or if you damage the door and now it won't shut, that obviously we need to get that fixed. Some don'ts are pretty obvious. I probably won't even read most of these to you, but we don't want to engage in road rage and confrontation with other drivers. And we definitely don't want to use our state vehicle as a personal vehicle. That being said, I will mention that no one is allowed in your vehicle except for another state employee. So no pets, no kids, no significant others. So because our insurance only covers people employed by the state. So if you were to get into an accident, it would not cover anyone else in your vehicle besides you or anyone else who works for the state. So I bring up this picture because this is probably my biggest pet peeve. So it's very personal to me. If you imagine a stoplight right here, we've all seen the people who, let's say this is all backed up to about here, that drive up the center lane to turn. You will get a ticket. It's not legal. The center lane is not a driving lane. So I just wanted to bring this up because this happens so much. I live in Independence, Oregon. There's a gas station like right here, and then my turn off is right here, and people pull out of the gas station and they zoom up the center lane, and then I can't get over to turn, and it upsets me all the time. So it's like my biggest pet peeve. But so if you're stuck back here, it's okay. Just wait until you have a break in a line or a dotted line, but don't drive in this space. Plus, it's not good for your tires. There's a lot of junk usually in the center lane. So let's see. I see some things popping in the chat. I'm just going to check that really fast. Jordan, I'm going to cover that in like 2 minutes. So hang on to that thought. So I just bring this up because every year the DMV, I guess, updates these kind of figures. Of course, they're a couple years delayed. So even though this data is from 2018, but published in 2020. So vehicle accidents have been about 50,000 vehicle accidents in Oregon each year. I wanted to bring your attention to this. So last time I had these figures, it was like August, not October. So it was very applicable to technicians. But there are a lot of vehicle accidents that happen the last day of the week during the time that you'll probably be driving home. So just to be extra cautious in general, but especially around those rush hour times, especially where our office is located off of 217, there's always accidents on that stretch of highway. So just be extra careful there. Most injury accidents do involve drivers 15 to 20 years of age. But COVID-19 has probably altered some of this data and the way it's presented since, most people are staying at home. I do also want to bring you attention that a lot of our job is also spent in the vehicle, right? We spend 8 to 9 hours a day. Your sites are, especially in the Portland field office, your sites might be 500 feet apart. And so you're constantly getting in and out of your car. So you'll be in that vehicle a long time. Any of the returning techs know what I'm talking about. They can nod their heads. They know what I'm talking about. So these are the most common errors that are involved in injury and non-injury accidents. I have a sneaky suspicion that it's because of this guy here. So that is why we have, when you get your iPhones, and we can go over this, maybe not during iPhone setup, but perhaps during field training or sometime, there's a setting in your iPhone that allows you to basically mute calls and texts while you're driving. So I highly recommend that you do that. There's absolutely nothing going on in our group chat or anything I would ever call you about that's more important than your safety. So don't ever feel the need that you have to answer your phone right away. Even if I call you twice in a row, it doesn't matter. just keep being safe and stay on the road. And at your next stop, maybe give me a buzz. And as careful as I know you all will be driving state vehicles, accidents happen. They happen every season. Inside your vehicles and even inside your binders, there's going to be some information on how to work through the accident step process. So you can read about that in your binder. There's also a zip pouch that's going to be in your vehicles. When you get your vehicles next week, you'll actually have to look inside that little zip pouch to make sure you have your fuel card in there. So it's also there. So you want to stop and remain calm and be courteous to everyone involved. You definitely want to contact your manager. And if you don't get a hold of Jake, call Annie. If you don't get a hold of Annie, you can call me. You'll probably eventually call me anyway, but definitely want to contact Jake. There's some paperwork on his end and notification to human resources that he has to do. And so you'll want to make sure that you fill out some appropriate documents, because within 48 hours, all of these documents here are going to be required to be turned in. If for some reason you can't, like you're in a really bad accident and shaken and you can't get this, work through HR and your management team to see if they can help you and assist you to get these submitted. I don't want you, if you're having a really bad day with the accident that you had, to feel super pressured. We do need to get these, but it doesn't necessarily have to be you who does it. So work through your management team to get that in. So here's a couple of pictures of some accidents that have occurred in our state vehicles. I grabbed these from Fleet. None of these accidents are lethal accidents. So even though some look really bad, don't worry, everyone is okay. This is one, I believe, from 2019. That happened. It's just a fender bender issue. This person, I believe, backed into something. I think they backed into something. No, sorry. I don't know all the stories behind all of these. This person, for sure, they tapped a pole and their hood got dinged up. This is actually an accident I was involved in, this Jeep up here in the corner. I was doing everything right. I had my blinker on. I was waiting to turn, and the person slammed into me going 55 miles an hour. That was a really jarring experience. Since my first ever accident, it was no fun. But anyway, I'm okay. And the people in the other vehicle are also okay. So just to give you some examples of some kinds of accidents that we see. So I wanted to talk a little bit. I mentioned earlier that parking and moving violations are going to be paid by you. Again, if you get a parking or moving violation, you're not in trouble, but we do ask that you report these to your managers, because your managers will be asked. Everything gets submitted to the agency. So if you get a ticket, the police department will submit that ticket to either DAS or ODA saying, hey, your vehicle was involved in a traffic light camera ticket or something like that. And we're often asked to give, well, not me, but Jake and management teams are often asked to give a statement of what happened. So instead of chasing you down for the statement of what happened in your state vehicle, if you preemptively give this to Jake, it will make it easier on their end. He'll have an answer prepared for when we get that notification. Any questions on parking and moving violations or vehicle use up until that point? Okay. So I want to go over some technician responsibilities regarding fleet maintenance. I think Jordan will cover what your questions are on some of this stuff. So yes, as state employees, you'll be paid time to go get these things done. So every 5,000 miles, so I'm going to use big numbers because our state vehicles have lots of mileage on them. So we're going to go 120, 125, 130, in the area. So every 5,000 miles, you'll want a tire rotation. And you can also get some of these. They'll usually do a tire inspection at Les Schwab as well, and a brake inspection as all part of that tire rotation. You can also ask them for a pre-trip safety check if you want, where they check some of your fluids and your other things that they look for in the drivetrain that Les Schwab has the ability to work on. If you ever need windshield wipers, this includes in the dead of summer because we get a lot of bugs. And if your wipers are not doing a good job getting those off of the windows, especially Bethany, you out in Bend, please feel free to go ahead and stop into Les Schwab and get windshield wipers. This document, again, is also in your binder, so you don't have to memorize this. You'll probably forget a lot of it by the time onboarding is done. You can also use trusted other shops. We've been having some trouble with Les Schwab for certain things like batteries. They haven't been great getting batteries out of Les Schwab. So if you know another shop in your area that you trust, please let us know and we'll work through Fleet to see if we can get that shop on our approved shop list as a place we can take vehicles. I guess I will also mention with my little fun cartoon here that if you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere and you get a flat tire, even though you have a spare, even though you might know where your jack is, and you don't have to change your flat tire, we have the Voyager cards, our fuel cards have basically AAA attached to them. I will say it's not like AAA in that you might be on the phone for 3 hours waiting for them to answer your call. It's not great. So if you do get a flat tire, to contact your coordinator, Les Schwab, and they can work through Les Schwab. Les Schwab also has this ability to come out and change your tire to your spare for you for I think it's like $60. It's very inexpensive. It's much faster than waiting for people in Voyager to get you a tow truck to tow you to Les Schwab to work through them that way. So if you do have a flat tire situation, reach out to your coordinator. The place we go for oil, bulbs, and air filters, Valvoline is our preferred shop, but we do not have an account, like an ODA account there. So you'll have to use your Voyager card if you go to Valvoline. Similar to tire rotations, you'll want to do that on the same schedule as changing your oil, so every 5,000 miles. And then they'll also do an engine air filter inspection. Please feel free to get that changed. If it looks clogged up, they usually recommend, they'll show it to you and recommend if they need it changed or not. And this is also where you would go if you had any dead light bulbs or needed fluid top-offs. So every Valvoline does, well, I think Jiffy Lube also does this. Wherever you went for your last oil change, if you're running out of windshield wiper cleaner or your coolant looks a little low, you can always pop into the last lube facility and they'll top off your fluids. So feel free to do that. And then if we have to, we will go to Jiffy Lube, but because a lot of those are privately owned entities, Like they all fall under the Jiffy Lube brand, but they're owned by individuals. They've been known to sell really aggressively and add things to our invoices that we don't actually approve. So there's been people who have had, like, they didn't say anything about the air filter or anything about light bulbs or windshield wipers or tire rotations and have added it to the invoice. So I just recommend, if you do go to Jiffy Lube, please check your invoice very carefully for things that you did not approve on there. And if they try to tell you, oh, we called so-and-so at ODA and they approved it, they've done that as well and then not actually called anyone at ODA. So just be very careful if you go to Jiffy Lube. And then we also do have other shops, especially in PFO. We can go over that a little bit later, that we can get all of this stuff done at and avoid Les Schwab and Jiffy Lube and Valvoline altogether. They just require appointments instead of just driving up. They're not instant oil change or instant tire rotations. So we do have other trusted shops in the Portland area that we can take our vehicles to as well. Bethany, you can change your own tire to the spare, but if you don't want to or don't feel comfortable doing that, or if you're stuck on a gravel road and are having a lot of trouble securing your jack, please do reach out to someone. I think, and Todd, I don't know if he's on right now, but Todd might also have this device for you when you're out really remote called a spot locator that allows you to text message him. So if you get a flat tire 5 miles down a road and have no cell reception, you can text him via satellite and let him know your location, and we can try to get someone else out to you if you're having a lot of trouble changing a tire on a gravel road or on, most of the time we pull off into the shoulder. Not fun. Not fun to do that. So the important thing here is that no matter where you go, if it's a high dollar repair, we're going to want to call Alan Richardson. His phone number is all over every fleet document that you'll be issued in your binder. It's inside documents in your zip pouch. And it'll also probably show up in your contact card, or we can add it to your contacts once you get your work cell phones. And then again, like I said, if you think you'll forget all of this, no problem. We write it down a lot of times, so that way you have it. So other tech responsibilities that don't involve shops are some things that you're definitely going to want to do daily is check your tire pressure just visually. Turn on your headlights and make sure that those work. Make sure your strobe light is still functional. Is there any exterior damage, especially if you're parking roadside near your house? Did someone key your car or break your mirror driving by or anything like that? Last season, some vehicles parked at the field office actually got egged, and that's definitely something that can ruin paint. So we want to make sure that if that happens, we clean those up right away. And then pretty obvious to secure any loose items, especially any items down near your feet or that could potentially fall down near your feet. And then some bi-weekly checks, so not twice a week, but every other week. You want to check your fluid levels. You can, if you're unsure how to do this, we could probably, like when you come in to do your timesheet meetings and submit your timesheets at the field office, we can help you or show you how to do this. You'll want to make sure that you check your wiper blade function and make sure that all of your safety equipment is secure. The pin fell out of my fire extinguisher in the back of my truck, and the handle accidentally got depressed, and it was like a cartoon. It like went right into my face, the powder from the fire extinguisher. It was only for a split second, but even just that second was terrible. I do want to let you know that the purpose of a fire extinguisher in a lot of times is to take oxygen away from fires, right? So if this is in your car, you want to make sure it's secure, not rolling around the back seat. If it deploys while you're driving, you could imagine that'd be very dangerous. So we have some black totes that you can put it in and make sure that's accessible. because the powder, not only is the oxygen gone, but it's now completely, it's like if you threw talcum powder in the air, like it's just all over the place. So it would be very dangerous driving and have that happen. So please make sure your fire extinguisher is secured well and not rolling around. And then we want to make sure that you also check your heater and defroster and AC function. These are all very important, especially in the height of summer when we have those really, really hot days. I want to make sure that you have a cool, nice place to sit and relax for a minute, so that you don't have heat stroke or, anything like that. And then you're also going to want to keep an eye on any upcoming maintenance, because we do want to keep on that schedule of 120 or close to, I would say a couple hundred, like 200 miles before or after is kind of our goal. So from 118,000 to 122,000, or no, that's thousands. We don't want that. We want hundreds of miles, really close to your maintenance schedule. Any questions on tech responsibilities? Okay. The strobe light, yeah, that's an excellent question. It's a safety-related piece of equipment that plugs into your cigarette lighter. It's magnetized onto the top of your vehicle, and it actually has a rating. The strobe lights are quite expensive. They're around $350. So if you are parking roadside over a long weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it could rain or something, we want to make sure we bring that into the car, because it also pulls up the weather stripping on the car a little bit and water can get in too. But it's essentially just another level of visibility. So when you're parking roadside, people can see, flashers. You can also use your flashers if you want to, but a lot of times, a nice person driving by will be like, "Are you okay? Are you stuck in the ditch? Can I help you?" Which is, a fine conversation to have with people. But the strobe light is not, it doesn't look like you're in a safety situation. It just lets people know that you're parked roadside and kind of stagnant there, that you're not going to move fast. You'll see them. We'll definitely make sure that you know exactly what that is when we issue your fleet vehicle. I don't have a picture of one, unfortunately, to show you at the moment, but they're definitely handy. Oops. So this number up here is very important. It belongs to your Fleet Voyager card, and it is your fuel card PIN number. Everyone's going to have the same PIN number, but I will mention that Voyager cards are unique to vehicles. So if you lose yours, we're going to have to get you a new one. They can't be shared or anything like that. And the reason for that is you not only need this PIN number, but you'll also need your vehicle mileage to get fuel. And so we track fuel and mileage through Fleet Commander. Using the Voyager system talks directly to, our Fleet Commander program to let us know if for some reason you accidentally, I've done this before, transposed a number and you're like, oh my gosh, it looks like I'm fueling, like instead of putting 133,000 miles, I put a 313,000 miles. That's definitely not right. One or two instances like that aren't going to make a red flag. But if you're consistently, your mileage is all over the place and not consistent, like in what they would assume you would need a new tank of gas, it will definitely flag it and they'll have some questions. Important to note that not all stations accept Voyager card, and if for some reason they do, like some Safeways, sometimes they do, we just need to be mindful that we're not allowed to gain anything from using state money. So you can't type in your Safeway card number, your Fred Meyer rewards. If you do happen to go to a station like this and they happen to accept your Voyager card, usually I just avoid these altogether and go to Shell or whatever's closest. If you're based in the Salem area or close to Salem at all and you do need gas, there's a motor pool, which is actually the cheapest place we can get gas. It's not very far from the Hawthorne office. So if you're headed that direction or will be around that area, I would recommend speaking to your coordinator about finding the location to that. It's definitely the most preferable place to get gas in the Salem area. And you'll find this card. You want to make sure you have it when you do your vehicle assignments. It will be inside your clear zip pouch in your glove box. And there's also a document in there that will tell you what you can use your Voyager card for. And some of that, especially in the Portland field office, where we don't have a motor pool with a car wash that we have access to, we can use the fleet card for car washes that are attached to gas stations. And maybe a returning tech can explain how that has usually worked for Portland field office really quickly.
I usually just try to note a gas station or two in my territory that has a car wash. And then when you go to that station and fill up, you just ask for the car wash and you can put the whole purchase on your Voyager card when you buy your gas. There's also one that's near the field office if you ever want to go from the field office. It's just up the highway just above where the field office is.
That one's not good though. There's so many bad ones.
There is a really good one. It's more towards Hillsboro, but it's not too far from the treatment area. So it's a little bit out of the way, but it's much better than what's right next to the office.
Yeah, I find the one off right by the Hillsboro Fred Meyer's really good. If you're in that area, there's like a Chevron or something that has a good car wash. And then also in Troutdale, there's a good one right off Marine Drive. But you just got to find them because some of them just spray your car and don't really clean it.
Yeah, I love the one you're talking about, the Chevron in Hillsboro. The people at the gas attendants are so friendly in there, and they're so nice. I love going to that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Can we take it to a car wash that isn't attached to a gas station?
I don't think your Voyager card will work there. You're welcome to try if you would like to, but I don't think they'll take your Voyager card. If you, and so typically how that would work, and the reason why it's attached to a gas station, usually you go, Amber, and everyone else can correct me if I'm wrong, usually you go in and pay for your gas and ask for a car wash at the same time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to do it inside. You can do it like at the pump, like you normally would, just pay for gas, and just tell them, before you pay that you want a car wash too.
So I definitely recommend these. I mean, you can also wash your car at your house. That's also an option. So if you want to do that, just reach out to your coordinator. They'll talk to you a little bit about what that would look like in terms of paid time and, that kind of stuff. There'd be some things that we probably have to talk to Jake about if you wanted that option. But you can wash your car at your house as well. It's just much faster and probably more convenient, especially if you're going, if you have special sites or sites where you have to wash your car in between going to each place, to just pop into a car wash gas station situation, then try to go home and wash your car in between those. So, and I left with this slide because this is probably the most, well, not that anything else isn't important in this presentation, but this is probably the thing you'll use the most and most important right away. So that's it for my presentation. Does anyone have any other questions about fleet? Or I guess I can add one other thing really quickly. Next week you will be picking up your fleet vehicle, and you'll have to arrange a ride to the field office to pick that up. If you do not have an alternative ride to pick up your fleet vehicle, please reach out to your coordinator. Unless there's already, so like a couple people who are really far away, we've already done some things like Bethany and some people down in Eugene. to get your vehicles closer to you so you don't have to pick them up at like your field office. So that wouldn't apply necessarily to everyone, but for the mass majority of you in the Portland field office, you'll be picking up your fleet vehicle at the Portland field office. So if you want to know where that address is, inside your binder, there's a training packet for field training, and the address is actually included in that packet. I think it's on the second or third page of it. It's also, I can also post it in the group chat. But that will happen on Tuesday. So if you need to arrange, like if we need to help you figure out a ride to the field office to pick up your vehicle, please reach out to us to let us know. All right, any questions about
Yeah, I have
that?
sorry. I have a quick question about picking up vehicles. So will we be picking up vehicles on Tuesday before we're supposed to meet at the field offices?
Yeah, so if you look at your agenda, you'll be picking up your vehicle. So you'll have, so on Tuesday, you have that early morning iLearn, which is really just a filler. So for some of you, you might have 20 minutes of travel time, and some might have an hour or 3 hours, however long their travel time is. So you want to make sure that you're at the field office by 9:30. Your significant other or person who's giving you a ride can drop you off there at 9:30. They don't have to stick around. Your vehicle isn't actually going to be issued until about 12:30. So right after lunch, your vehicle will be issued, but you have to be at the field office at 9:30 in the morning for PFO.
I'm a little confused because I talked with Holly, I think a week and a half ago about having a truck. She said they were going to send a truck down to me at the Glenwood. There's a Glenwood state vehicle location, and that I was supposed to pick that up there. But I haven't heard anything else from her about that. And so I'm just wondering like when I'm supposed to pick that up. And if I need to do that on a day before Tuesday so that I can make sure there's time to get to Salem by
Sure,
9:30.
yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to let Holly, if she's listening in, answer that one because you are one of those further away people who we sent a vehicle closer to where you live. So I'll let her answer that one.
Yeah, hi. Is Angie who's asking that question, correct?
Yeah, this is Angie.
Okay, hi Angie. So yeah, we've got your truck at that location that I gave you the address for. So you'll just want to pick it up in time to get to the field office the next day on Tuesday by 9:30. So whatever that means for you, if it would be better for you to go Monday afternoon, after the last thing on our agenda there, I think is over at 1:30, like the breakouts by field office. So then it's kind of time to, and Chantel or anybody stop me if I'm misspeaking and I'm forgetting something. But I think that the Monday afternoon is time, it's kind of flexible because of people have different kind of travel plans and things like that. So that time is to be filled with travel if you need it. Videos, we'll talk about tasks that need to be done at some point and can be done there or moved around. So anyway, that is a time that perhaps if you want to go get your vehicle at that point you can. So the only restrictions are that I think with your vehicle, I think it is behind the locked gate. So you just do need to go there during their business hours.